Hi, it's really bright out here. So I'm about to share with you the three things that I've learned from working on a factory environment. So being an exploratory tester on a factory environment. A bit of background about myself, I've been testing for about 13 years. And most of my experience has been working as an exploratory tester in one of those traditional test environments. So I'm usually the only tester there trying to implement context-driven sort of methodologies or practices. So I've learned a few things along the way that I just wanted to share with you guys if anyone is going through the same things. So I'm no expert in organizational change. I'm just, I just have my own experiences here. Some things did help, others didn't. But the top three that I have, first of all, be prepared. So think ahead of time. When you're going to go and talk to that person that never heard about exploratory testing or context-driven testing, or is very against it, or if you've spoken to them and they are against it, be prepared. So it's common sense, but make sure that you know what you're going to talk about. Make sure you think about any arguments they might have against what you're going to say. Have an argument about that already ready. So just research a lot and make sure that you know what you're going to talk about. As part of being prepared is put yourself on their shoes. Think about, are they reluctant because they've been doing this for a long time, they don't want to change, or are they just comfortable where they are? Just try to put yourself on their shoes and just prepare yourself for that conversation. Number two is start small. Smaller change is always less threatening, so you will probably get through people easier if you start small. So instead of going to your manager and getting into that major project that's going on and wanting to change everything in there, just pick a smaller project or a defect that you're testing in production or a BAU change or something like that to try to gather some evidence. So try to do your exploratory testing on those. See if you can get buy-in for that. In my experience, it has been much easier that way. I worked in a major bank in Australia for a while, and they were not really open to any exploratory testing techniques in there. They were very risk-averse, and they reckoned that, if it's working, why change? So I was able to, after very long discussions with my manager, to compromise on and just do exploratory testing once a week. So I've introduced the concept of exploratory Fridays. So we used to do scripted testing 4 days a week, and on Fridays we used to do exploratory testing, which was great for us to be able to gather evidence. And at the end of every Friday, we used to sit with our managers and show them evidence of what exploratory testing really is, to debunk that idea that exploratory testing is just testing that's ad hoc, or that there is no evidence, or there is no documentation behind it. So that was really helpful as well. Number three is compromise. I mean, starting small is already a compromise, but you may need to be prepared to compromise even more. You may, you may need to do your exploratory testing in parallel with your scripted testing, because the important thing sometimes is just to take one step in the right direction. And again, gathering evidence is very powerful. So if you need to compromise and do both of them parallel, just so you can get some evidence, that really helps. So I find that with argument, having evidence to back you up, especially if it's evidence on the project that you're working on, the company that you're working on, it's really powerful. So these are the three things I had to share. Be prepared, start small, and compromise. Thank you.
So I would just like to add I agree with you to start small, and I kind of agree with you to sometimes compromise, but you have to be very much aware of that. Adding like context-driven ideas into something that is not context-driven at all might render really strange results sometimes. So sure, but be aware of that part. That's my addition.
Thanks.
Yeah, I find that explaining to people that they are in a context and are already doing context-driven testing to a large degree helps them to understand. Now, we may help them to understand the context is different than they thought, but it's a good place to start. Compromise.
You say they were in a very risk-adverse environment, yet not adopting exploratory testing is probably the most risky thing you can do on any project, surely.
That's, I try to make that point, bring that point across, but yeah.